I announced that 92% of Commonwealth jobs no longer require a college degree. And as a result, 10 months later, nearly 60% of the Commonwealth's new hires don't have a college degree. That's several percentage points higher than last year, representing hundreds of new employees who were given a fair shot, not shut out due to some arbitrary requirement. My administration is showing that we value skills and experience. And we are also acknowledging that every Pennsylvanian has a different path in life. For some, that means a college degree. For others, it means hands-on experience in the trades, in the military, or in the field. We need to respect both paths equally and ensure Pennsylvanians have the ability to chart their own course and the opportunity to succeed. That's what I had in mind when I fought successfully for and delivered significantly more funding for VOTEC in our classrooms and apprenticeships after high school. Since January, consider this, the Department of Labor and Industry has registered 28 new apprenticeship programs, and those programs have enrolled more than 4,600 new apprentices. Those workers are going to be in high demand in the years to come as Pennsylvania puts significant federal dollars for infrastructure repair to work throughout our communities. That's why I did something no other governor in the nation has done, creating the first in the United States program to help companies building infrastructure projects provide on-the-job training for new workers. The Commonwealth Workforce Transformation Program will train 10,000 new workers and supercharge our work to rebuild Pennsylvania's infrastructure. 10,000 new jobs. Commonwealth is also making its mark as a leader in clean energy infrastructure. You see, we are the only state in the country to secure 2 regional clean hydrogen hubs. We worked hard on this together. And listen, I believe we must reject the false choice between protecting jobs and protecting our planet. We can do both. We can embrace our Commonwealth's legacy as an energy leader and create good-paying jobs. Last month, I stood with a natural gas CEO, a Pittsburgh union leader, and the president of a major Pennsylvania environmental organization to announce a first-of-its-kind initiative that will responsibly produce energy, create jobs, and protect public health and safety, building on the work I did as your Attorney General. And energy is not the only area where we are making progress. Since January, my administration has announced more than $1 billion in new private sector investment in our Commonwealth. These are private companies that have chosen to come here to Pennsylvania or expand their operations here because our administration helped make it worthwhile for them to make the investment here. That's $1 billion. That means more jobs for Pennsylvanians, more families that have a little extra to spend at local shops, more resources for our communities. And the downstream effects are really substantial. Let me give you a concrete example. Just last week, I was at a place that Luke was at just a few months ago. It's called Astrobotic. Sources its parts for their lunar lander from 140 different Pennsylvania companies. That's 140 Pennsylvania companies benefiting from our investment, not to mention the incredible work done at Carnegie Mellon University, home of the groundbreaking scientific advancements and the researchers who worked with Astrobotic to help make this lunar lander possible. You see, the story of Astrobotic shows how government can help connect those dots between groundbreaking companies and our world-class research institutions and empower Pennsylvania-driven innovation. Astrobotic, well, they are doing big things, but it's not the only company in Pennsylvania pushing the envelope. In Philly, Spark Therapeutics is developing life-saving gene therapies and a center for bioresearch, and they are now breaking new ground on on their expanded corporate headquarters there. In Western Pennsylvania, I was just with Westinghouse, where they are developing the future of nuclear energy, serving underserved areas with clean, portable energy sources for generations to come. And in Carbon County, Little Leaf Farms, they have the largest, most technologically advanced greenhouse in the entire world, right in Pennsylvania is home to about 53,000 farms that cover 7.5 million acres and support 1 in 10 jobs across our Commonwealth. Every year, ag contributes about $132 billion to our state's economy. But here's the thing. Too oftentimes, ag gets left out of conversations about economic growth and the development of future opportunity. Agriculture needs to be a key part of that conversation, and it is now on my watch. In the same sentence that we talk about biotech and manufacturing, we should be talking about investing in our farms and in our farmers. And that's exactly what our administration is doing. That's why in the budget that I signed into law this summer, we fully fund the Pennsylvania Farm Bill in its 5th year and include major new investments to help farmers address some of the challenges they face, including $34 million investment in our state's high-path avian influenza recovery fund. With Secretary Redding at the helm, coordinating with key legislative stakeholder leaders like Senator Scott Martin, my administration led a coordinated response to high-path avian influenza, reducing the spread and allowing us to lift all quarantine areas in the Commonwealth far sooner than we initially thought. We have to thank our big businesses. We have to thank our small family farms. We also have to thank leaders in the Amish community for helping us with this work. Pennsylvania poultry is now once again being sold to customers across the country and around the world. And for those farmers who did lose birds, we've paid out over $12 million in relief to help them become whole. We're committed to building an economy that lifts everyone up, from the largest corporations that dot the skyline in Philadelphia to the smallest family-run businesses on main streets across our Commonwealth. That's why, for the first time ever, this year's budget included $20 million in state funding for small minority, women, and veteran-owned businesses across Pennsylvania. That's why I signed an executive order to help more small and small diverse businesses compete for state contracts. This isn't some feel-good executive order that sounds nice in theory and establishes a quota that we will never meet. No, instead, it puts real accountability in place to expand opportunity for small and small diverse businesses in Pennsylvania. But those investments will only go so far as if those small businesses and entrepreneurs can get online. In today's world, internet access is not a luxury, it's a necessity. But too many communities in Pennsylvania don't have access to high-speed, affordable internet. Consider this: across Pennsylvania, 276,000 households, businesses, schools, churches, libraries, they don't have access to the internet at all. And 52,000 of them don't have access that they can rely on when they need it most. Thanks to a significant federal investment that we've secured, my administration has now put together a plan that aims to connect all of these communities to high-speed, affordable internet by the end of this decade, with the vast majority of that work coming over the course of the next 5 years. That means parents aren't going to have to drive their kids to the library in the next town over just to do their homework, like the one I just visited in Beaver County. It means small businesses and entrepreneurs will have a better chance of being able to succeed and grow. And it means doctors' offices will have the modern tools they need to communicate with patients and consult with their colleagues. These are tangible things that make a difference in people's lives. Connecting people to the services they need online is something that we are working on in state government too. Because if we are going to best serve the people of Pennsylvania, then we have to meet people where they are. And more, of course, Pennsylvanians are online. I've said it from the beginning of my time as your governor. There should be no wrong door to get help from Pennsylvania's government. No matter how you choose to access government, you need to know you're going to get help, whether you're apps and digital programs and work across agencies, systems, and services. We're going to build a comprehensive, user-focused online experience for Pennsylvania. And while we're at it, we're going to fulfill the promise of our Code PA leader, Bree Pardo, who said she is working every day to make forms suck less. I think that is a great plan. Bree just launched one of Code PA's first products earlier this month. Let me tell you briefly about it. In January, standing with Luke, I made a commitment to the good people of Pennsylvania that our administration would move at the speed of business. Pennsylvanians work hard, and they deserve a government that works just as hard as them to help them succeed. That's why we've worked every day to improve our state government's permitting, licensing, and certification processes. And now we are putting our money where our mouth is. On November 1st, under Code PA's leadership, we launched Payback, our new online money-back guarantee system where you can request a refund if your permit, license, or certification was failed to be delivered on time. Now, you can see, thanks to Payback, processing timelines for permits, licenses, and certifications, how much money you may be entitled to, and request your refund, all from the computer in your desk or the phone in your hand. But listen, we didn't wait till November 1st to start speeding up the processes for Pennsylvanians. Throughout the spring and summer, we worked to eliminate backlogs and cut wait times for permits and other vital governmental services. Let me give you just a few examples. Too many historically disadvantaged small business owners feel shut out of opportunities when they want to do business with our Commonwealth. So the team at the Department of General Services under Reggie McNeil went to work and cut down certification times for these small businesses by 33%, allowing them to bid on government contracts sooner and help us better serve our fellow Pennsylvania, who had told me they didn't even want to compete for state business because they said it would take too long to get paid, or they didn't want to float that kind of capital. We fixed that. Our team at Labor and Industry cut the average wait time for unemployment compensation, something many of you correctly wrote about. We cut the unemployment compensation phone call wait time down from an hour and a half to just 17 minutes today. And I want to be clear, we are not done. We're going to continue to make progress in that area. Over at the Department of Education, we've cut processing times for new in-state teacher certifications from 12 weeks to just 2.5 weeks to help more teachers get in our classrooms at a time when we are facing critical shortages. And for folks ready to start a business, the Department of State, get this, cut the average turnaround time for a business license from nearly 8 weeks, which is what it was the day I took office, to 3 days, which is what it is today. Thank you. We're delivering vital services faster. She obviously just got her license quickly. We're delivering vital services faster and helping entrepreneurs start small businesses and getting teachers in the classroom. We're increasing accountability and creating new online tools to ensure that our government moves at the speed of business. And we are showing what good government looks like every day. That brings me back to where I started, and I think it's pretty clear. We've gotten a lot of stuff done. We've gotten a lot of shit done over the first 10 months. And through this hectic pace, when I'm out and about, a lot of folks across Pennsylvania, they'll stop me and say, hey, what's it like being governor? How does it feel? Well, I can tell you that I feel humbled every single day when I come to the office. I feel proud and honored to be doing this work for the good people of Pennsylvania. I'm also humbled by the significant challenges that we face. And as we move rapidly to make progress, know that I am also quite impatient about the work that we still need to do to address violence in our communities, to give every child of God a quality education, to build a more fair and just society, and to defend real freedom. There's still a lot more. We need to continue to work together to get stuff done for the good people of Pennsylvania. I'm also mindful that after the election earlier this month, I'm now the only governor in the nation working with a divided legislature in these hyper-polarized times. And of course, we are about to embark on a presidential election that is only going to drive people further apart. But I want you to know I'm going to continue doing what I do, which is to try and bring people together inside and outside of our state capitol building to find common ground and to get stuff done, as we've shown we can do here. I would hope that all the people in this room, whether you agree with me or not on a particular issue, would not feed into the cynicism and the division that surrounds us. And instead, I hope you would honor and appreciate and fairly question the work that Democrats and Republicans, people who have been in this building for decades and those who are just arriving, are doing to try and make this Commonwealth a better place. I'm proud of the work that we've done together, and I look forward to continuing to bring this GSD attitude to the Commonwealth for years to come. And with that, I will end this as I end all of my press conferences saying, now I'm happy to take your questions. Thank you all very, very much. Thank you.
Far more questions than time. That's great.
I turned mine off, so why don't you try, see if that works.
I turned mine off too.
We'll just yell at each other then. Go ahead.
I think the governor's office is running audio here. All right, we have far more questions than we have time. Hopefully we can plow through at least a representative.
Question is on whether or not to appeal Reggie. I think we'll have more to say about that in the coming days. I think what is important, though, about the issues that were surrounding Reggie is when I was campaigning across Pennsylvania, I heard from a lot of different stakeholders, leaders in the environmental community, leaders in the labor community, industry leaders, who complained to me that they felt that they were unheard, right? They weren't being heard in the past administration. They weren't actually talking to one another a whole lot. And so I committed, if I was elected governor, I would get all of them together in a room and we would have some honest dialogue. And we did just that. Leaders from consumer groups, environmental groups, labor unions, and of course, industry. And we had good and spirited and honest dialogue. What came out of that is that all of the participants in those discussions, while having a lot of fundamental disagreements, understood that a cap and invest strategy that was unique to Pennsylvania was a good way forward. They've given us a lot to think about. I think they've given lawmakers a lot to think about. And so while there is a question about whether to appeal or not, the real issue here is whether or not we're going to listen to the people of Pennsylvania who've been engaged in these conversations and find common ground. This is an area where I believe we can find common ground. I've had some good conversations with lawmakers on both sides of the aisle, and I think we can get something good done together.
You promised Lifeline Pass. What are you doing to deliver for parents with kids strapped in failing schools who are desperate to get these scholarships next year?
Should I cut yours off? I've made clear that I think every child of God deserves a great quality education. We do that by making sure we invest in our public schools, and we do that by making sure we create opportunities for parents to put their kids in the best possible position for them to succeed. I've also been clear that we've got some unfinished business, items that have passed in one house and not in the other. I consider this to be unfinished business, along with making sure we raise the minimum wage, along with passing statute of limitations reform, along with making sure that we do something about gun violence in our communities. We've seen progress in the House and Senate on a whole host of issues, and now, as I said to many of you in the governor's reception room back in July, we've got to make sure the House and Senate learn to work constructively together on a whole host of issues, including the one raised in the question here by John.
How are you going to resolve successfully the Commonwealth Court decision on school funding? What result do you want to see from the Basic Ed Funding Commission?
I made clear when I delivered my first budget address, which came, if memory serves me, maybe a week or 2 weeks after that Commonwealth Court decision, that we were going to need to spend the better part of my first year in office working within the legislature, with advocates and others, as Judge Cone-Jubileer quite literally directed us to do in her ruling, to find ways to deal with both creating equity in the formula on how dollars are driven out to our schools and increase the pot of resources available to our schools. That commission, the Basic Education Funding Commission, has been working over the course of the last few months to see if we can find some common ground, Democrats and Republicans together, to find some common ground on a formula that will drive out these resources more equitably. I'm hopeful. I've asked them to finish their work by around January 1st so that I can announce in my next budget both a formula that enjoys bipartisan support as well as increased in the legislature, and I'm hopeful we'll be able to find common ground on that formula and on the resources we need to drive out over the next several years.
What date did you become aware of the sexual assault allegations against your legislative secretary, and what immediate actions were taken?
No exception to that rule. I think it's also really encouraging that lawmakers are now looking to try and adopt standards across the board, particularly in the legislature, a place that has had very little standards and virtually no transparency in over many, many years. I'm hopeful that we'll be able to get some bills to my desk that increase transparency in this area and show that we can again come together on a bipartisan basis on important matters like this.
The Tree of Life mass murderer has been convicted and sentenced to death. Should he be executed? If not, why not?
Well, that, of course, was a federal matter that was determined by Department of Justice and the prosecutor in that case to seek the death penalty. They went to a jury of their peers, and that jury of their peers, of course, found not only a finding of guilt, but also a determination that the death penalty should be brought about. It's not for me, a state actor, to question that. My position on the death penalty has been clear, but this is a federal case, and we're going to adhere to the federal law and standards on this.
Your record on transparency has been generously spotty. You asked your transition team to sign NDAs. Your administration didn't say who funded the inaugural events. Your office has declined to make your daily calendar public. How do you justify secretly surrounding information that could help the public better understand your government?
I guess first and foremost, I would just fundamentally reject the premise of the question. We've continued transparency on my schedule. You all can see our schedule every week, just as prior governors have done. We continue to be transparent in the way we deliver for the good people of Pennsylvania. I just stood up here for 25 minutes talking about all of the accomplishments we've made as a result of working together, finding common ground, setting the table for progress, and delivering for the good people of Pennsylvania, the stuff that really matters most to them. That's the work that we're going to continue to do. Just a couple days ago, I signed an expansion of the right to know law to continue to promote transparency in our state government, and I commend a bipartisan group of lawmakers for getting that to my desk. I'd love to see further expansion of the right to know law to actually cover the legislature going forward and to make sure that we continue to deliver for the good people of Pennsylvania in an open, honest, and transparent way as we've done since the first day I took office.
I'm going to try to squeeze in two more. Compare the current level of dysfunction in the legislature with when
work together. You can see on these boards here, you can see in the common sense bipartisan budget that we passed, you can see in the progress that we're making on economic development, on education, on safety and security in our communities. I guess I would say that the level of, I think you said dysfunction, John, in your question, I would not characterize it that way. I think what we have is we're the only state in the entire nation with a full-time divided legislature. For the first time, Republican leaders in the Senate are having to deal with Democratic counterparts in the House and vice versa. And as I've remarked many times, including back in July after I spoke to many of you in the governor's reception room, the leaders of both those chambers need to find ways to work together. And I, of course, need to collaborate with them, something that we have certainly been willing to do. I think I have seen, and I'm more of a glass half full guy than maybe the person who asked the question. I think what we have seen over the last several weeks in particular are signs that both of those chambers are learning to work together. More bills making their way to my desk as a result of collaboration between my office and legislative leaders in those chambers. Just last week, we passed funding for our colleges and universities, a rare requirement of 2/3 of a vote in both chambers, meaning Democrats and Republicans in both chambers have to agree, along with the Republican leaders in the Senate, Democratic leaders in the House. We are finding common ground. We are getting stuff done. And while it may not be easy in these hyper-polarized times, again, as the only state in the nation with a divided legislature, we're clearly putting significant points on the board and delivering for the good people of Pennsylvania. I think we've set the stage for a really productive 2024. We're having really good dialogue with the leaders in the caucuses, and we'll look forward to making continued progress for the good people of Pennsylvania.
And finally, how was New Hampshire? When's your next trip?
I'll tell the foundation of politics in New Hampshire. And I'm proud of the fact that we've been able to take our record of accomplishments here and share it with people across the country. I'm going to do everything in my power to continue to tell our Pennsylvania story. And as for another trip to New Hampshire, I don't have one planned, John. Thank you all very much. Appreciate the chance to be with you. Thank you.
In closing, let me say this is the last luncheon of the year, but plan on joining us in January for our 29th year under the leadership of our new president